welcome. If you are watching and listening now, it means you have chosen to give yourself a pause, a moment entirely your own, away from the noise of the day. This is Opulent Dreams, a place where time slows down, where stories flow gently, and where sleep arrives without being called. Tonight, I have the privilege of guiding you slowly towards rest. There is nothing you need to do. Simply listen and let go. If you wish, you can support this journey with a small gesture by following the channel, liking this video, and leaving a comment telling us where you are watching from tonight. A quiet way of being present together, even from afar. For now, though, this time is yours. Lower the lights. Settle into a comfortable position. Allow your body to find its own balance. Soften your breathing. There is no need to control it. Just allow it to slow down. The world can wait. Your worries can remain outside this night. I wish you a deep, elegant, natural rest. Let yourself be gently carried. And when you are ready, let the dream begin. The taxi stopped gently. The murmur of the city remained below. Above, the air seemed lighter. Daniel looked toward the building. He smiled slowly. Beside him, Marcus stretched his shoulders, relaxed after the flight. "It smells like summer," Marcus said in a low voice. The lobby was silent. Light marble, warm light. Everything invited one to slow down. They went up in an almost inaudible elevator. The numbers ascended slowly, each floor, closer to the sky. When the door opened, time seemed to expand. The suite occupied the entire penthouse, spacious, serene, with floor-to-ceiling windows. Daniel dropped his bag. He walked toward the glass. Barcelona unfolded before them. Immense, alive, breathing with the rhythm of the Mediterranean. In the distance, the silhouette of the Sagrada Familia rose like a dream of stone. Beyond, the sea shimmered in shades of blue and silver. The streets formed a perfect mosaic. Marcus approached from behind. He wrapped his arms around him, without haste. "The trip was worth it," he whispered. The sun was beginning to set. Golden light bathed the buildings. The shadows lengthened slowly. On the terrace, a private pool reflected the sky, the water still. Almost motionless, Daniel ran his hand over the surface. Small ripples broke the mirror. "This view," he murmured. "It doesn't seem real." They stayed in silence, breathing together, without the need for words. Inside, the suite offered every detail: soft textiles, light woods, a subtle scent of lavender. The bedroom invited rest. A wide bed, fresh sheets, curtains that filtered the light with delicacy. Marcus dropped onto the mattress. He exhaled deeply. "Now this is a vacation." Daniel laughed softly. He sat down beside him. The weariness of the trip dissolved little by little, as if the city itself were welcoming them. The sky changed color: orange, pink, then deep blue. The first lights began to turn on, streets that shone like constellations. From the penthouse, Barcelona was calm. A distant murmur, a constant heartbeat. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He listened. He breathed. "Tomorrow we explore," he said. Daniel nodded without haste, without rigid plans. Night enveloped the city. The sea turned dark. The stars appeared shyly. They turned on soft lights on the terrace. They sat together, with a glass in hand. The air was mild, light, perfect. In the distance, the profile of Montjuic was traced against the night sky. Closer, the streets of the Gothic quarter seemed to whisper ancient stories. Everything was in balance. Daniel rested his head on Marcus's shoulder. He felt his breathing, regular, quiet. "We can disconnect here," he said. Marcus responded with a light squeeze. Without words, the distant sound of the city became music, a constant background. Hypnotic. The breeze gently moved the curtains. The pool water reflected the moon. Everything invited rest. Little by little, the silence grew deeper. And in that penthouse suspended over Barcelona, time began to go slower. The morning arrived without noise. A soft light filtered through the curtains. Golden, warm, almost liquid. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. He did not move at first. He listened. The silence was different, not empty, but full of calm. Beside him, Marcus was still sleeping. Deep breathing, rhythmic, quiet. The air smelled of clean cotton, of rest, of early summer. Daniel turned his head. He looked toward the large windows. Barcelona was waking up. The sky was clear, pale blue, effortless. He sat up slowly. His feet touched the warm floor. He walked without making a sound, as if he didn't want to break the peace. As he approached the glass, the view opened up again. The avenues were beginning to fill. Slow movement, constant. In the distance, the Sagrada Familia shone under the morning light. Its towers seemed softer now, less imposing, almost ethereal. Turning his gaze slightly, he distinguished the perfect geometry of the example. Orderly streets, symmetrical, like an infinite board. The sea, in the background, breathed calmly, a deep blue, splashed with silver reflections. Daniel leaned his hand against the glass. Cold. Real. He closed his eyes for a second. He breathed. Behind him the sheets moved. Marcus stretched slowly, muscles tensed, then relaxed. "Good morning," he murmured. His voice was still heavy with sleep. Daniel smiled without turning around. "You have to see this." Marcus got up. He walked toward him. Without haste, he stood by his side. He looked and kept silent. "It's different in the morning," he said at last. Daniel nodded. The city was not rushing. Not yet. Everything seemed suspended, as if Barcelona were stretching itself awake slowly. From the terrace, the air entered gently, light, fresh. They decided to go out. The floor beneath their feet was lukewarm. The pool reflected the clean sky. Marcus leaned over. He dipped his hand in. The water vibrated in small circles. "Perfect," he whispered. Daniel sat on the edge. He let his feet touch the water. A fresh sensation. An immediate awakening. A slight wind moved the hair of both. The sun caressed their skin. The moment lingered, without haste, without the need to talk. Shortly after, inside the suite, breakfast was already waiting. Everything arranged with precision. Without excess, with silent elegance. Fresh fruit, cut with detail. Vivid colors, crunchy bread. Still warm, aromatic coffee. Deep, comforting. They sat in front of the windows. Each bite was slow, conscious. Marcus closed his eyes as he tasted the coffee. He exhaled. Now this is a good way to start the day. Daniel observed the city while he ate. He noticed how the rhythm changed. More cars, more steps, more life. Passeig de Gracia was beginning to fill. Small figures moved between elegant buildings. In the distance, the undulating shapes of Casa Batlló caught the light. Soft colors. Reflections that were almost liquid. "Today we walk," Daniel said. Marcus nodded. "No rushing." The idea was simple. Explore, feel, let themselves go. After breakfast, the body asked for movement. They headed to the private training area. Spacious, silent, with open views, the firm floor beneath their feet. Controlled air, light streaming in. They began with slow movements, stretches, breathing. The muscles woke up little by little. Marcus lifted weight with control, each repetition precise. Daniel concentrated on the rhythm, on the technique, on the sensation. The effort was constant, but pleasant. No rushing, no unnecessary tension, only presence. Sweat appeared gently, like a light layer. The body hot, active, alive. When they finished, they looked at each other, a shared smile. Now we're ready, Marcus said. Afterward, the calm returned. Spacious showers, warm water falling slowly. Steam filled the space, blurred the outlines. The fatigue dissolved. Only lightness remained. Back in the suite, the city was already completely awake. Barcelona vibrated, but from the hotel, everything was still calm. Daniel lay on the bed. He looked at the ceiling. Marcus sat beside him. He brushed his arm. "We have the whole day," he said. Daniel closed his eyes. He smiled. Time opened up before them, wide, luminous, without limits. The sun was already high. The city breathed with more strength, a constant pulse, alive. Daniel adjusted his sunglasses. Marcus stretched his arms one last time before heading out. The elevator descended in silence, as if it did not want to interrupt the calm they still carried inside. As the doors opened, the street air enveloped them, warmer, denser, full of aromas, freshly made coffee, toasted bread, a faint salty trace arriving from the sea. They began to walk with no fixed destination, without a map, without haste. The sidewalks of Passeig de Gracia stretched out wide, elegant, orderly. The buildings seemed to observe them, facades full of details, impossible curves, balconies that seemed to breathe. They stopped in front of Casa Batlló. The midday light played with its colours, blues, greens, glints that changed depending on the angle. Marcus tilted his head. "It looks alive." Daniel nodded, as if it were in motion. They kept moving forward. Each step revealed something new, a different shadow, an unexpected reflection. The city did not show itself all at once. It allowed itself to be discovered. They turned toward a narrower street. The noise softened. They entered the Gothic quarter. The air changed, cooler, older. The stones beneath their feet told silent stories, centuries compressed into every corner. The high walls filtered the light, thin rays, almost sacred. They passed by the imposing Barcelona cathedral. Its towers rose with solemnity, infinite details, deep shadows. Daniel stopped. He observed the facade with attention. "Everything goes slower here," he said. Marcus looked around. People walked without haste, low conversations, soft steps. "It's another city within the city," they continued. Small squares opened up suddenly, intimate spaces, hidden. In one of them, they sat for a moment. The sound of a nearby fountain, water falling with a constant rhythm. Daniel closed his eyes. He breathed. The heat of the day was soft, pleasant, weightless. Marcus rested his elbows on his knees. He watched the light move on the ground. "I could stay here for hours," he murmured. Daniel smiled. "And no one would disturb us." Time seemed to dilute. After a while, they stood up again. They left the narrow streets. The light opened up once more. The path led them toward La Rambla. More movement, more voices, more energy. Street performers, colors, diverse rhythms. Marcus observed everything with quiet curiosity, without feeling overwhelmed, only interest. Daniel kept a relaxed pace, as if floating among the people. They crossed without stopping too much. They sought balance, not saturation. Little by little, the air changed again, more open, more luminous. The sea appeared before them. Barceloneta stretched out with its own rhythm. Light sand, wide sky, a clean horizon. They took off their shoes. The sand was lukewarm, pleasant under their feet. They walked near the water. The waves arrived softly, rhythmic. The sound was hypnotic. Daniel let the water touch his feet. Fresh, light. Marcus breathed deeply. The sea air filled his lungs. "This is everything we needed," he said. Daniel looked at him. He nodded. Nothing more was needed. They sat near the shore. The sun warmed their skin. The wind balanced it. They closed their eyes for an instant. Only sound. Only breathing. Nothing else. Time expanded again, without urgency, without strict plans. After a while, they stood up slowly. The day still had much to offer, but without haste. Always without haste. As they moved away from the beach, the city waited for them again. Vibrant, luminous, full of possibilities, and they remained in calm. The afternoon fell slowly. The sky changed from blue to gold, then to deeper tones, softer. Back in the suite, the atmosphere was fresh, silent, perfect for pausing. Daniel took off his shoes. He walked barefoot over the polished floor. Marcus opened the window slightly. The breeze entered gently. It brought the city with it, distant, muffled. Both moved slowly, without talking much. The interior light was dim, warm, relaxing. They prepared for the night. Light clothing, elegant, effortless. Daniel chose light tones. Marcus preferred something darker. They looked at each other for a moment. A brief smile. Knowing. "Ready?" Marcus said. Daniel nodded. The journey was short. The streets were beginning to fill. Lights turning on little by little. Reflections in shop windows. Lengthening shadows. The restaurant received them with discretion. A spacious area. Well-separated tables. Contained sound. Nothing was excessive. Everything was measured. They were escorted to a table by a large window. From there, the city seemed slower, more distant. They sat down. The chairs were comfortable. The environment enveloping. A soft light illuminated the table, without invading. Daniel rested his hands. He felt the texture of the tablecloth. Marcus looked around. Everything transmitted calm. "I like this place," he murmured. Daniel nodded. The service was almost invisible, precise, silent. The first course arrived, small, delicate, carefully presented. The aromas were subtle, inviting one to approach, to discover. Daniel tasted the first bite. He closed his eyes for an instant. "Perfect balance," he said in a low voice. Marcus imitated him. The flavors unfolded slowly, soft layers, without saturation. Time seemed to slow down again. Each dish arrived with its own rhythm. Without interruptions, between one and another, the silence was comfortable. There was no need to fill the spaces. The conversation flowed slowly. Light, weightless. They talked about the day, about the light in the Gothic quarter, about the sound of the sea in Barceloneta. Memories still fresh, every detail settled in. The second course arrived, more intense, but still elegant. Marcus rested his cutlery for a moment. "This is almost meditative." Daniel smiled. "Everything here is." Through the glass, the city lights sparkled. The egg sample formed orderly lines of light, like a luminous map. In the distance, the silhouette of the Sagrada Familia remained firm, softly illuminated, a constant reminder. The third course arrived with a deeper aroma. Warm, comforting. Daniel breathed in before tasting it. Marcus observed him. "You're getting used to this quickly." Daniel laughed softly. Perhaps too quickly. The dessert was light, sweet without excess, soft textures. He took his time, without looking at the clock, without the need. When they finished, they remained seated for a few minutes more, in no hurry to leave. The atmosphere continued to envelop them. Finally, they stepped out. The night greeted them with mild air. The city was alive, but not overwhelming. They walked slowly. The streets shone under the dim lighting. Passeig de Gracia had a different rhythm now, more elegant, more deliberate. Marcus breathed deeply. This is exactly what we were looking for. Daniel looked at him, and we're only just beginning. They continued walking, with no fixed destination, letting the night guide them, but always maintaining the calm. Because even in luxury, the most valuable thing remained that the sensation of being present. The night left a soft trail, a deep rest, without interruptions, without restless dreams. The morning arrived with delicacy, a dimmer light, more diffuse than the day before, as if the sky also wanted to go slowly. Marcus was the first to wake. He did not open his eyes immediately. He felt the light weight of the sheets, the fresh air, the calm. He took a deep breath. Beside him, Daniel was still sleeping, motionless, serene. Marcus sat up carefully. He sat on the edge of the bed. The silence was absolute. He stood up, walked toward the large windows. Barcelona was wrapped in a light mist. Outlines were softer, lines less defined. In the distance, the Sagrada Familia seemed to float, almost suspended in the air. Marcus rested his hands on the glass, observed without thinking too much, only looking, only being. Minutes later, Daniel moved. A small gesture, a sigh. "Are you awake already?" he murmured. "For a little while now," Marcus replied. Daniel got up slowly, approached him. They looked at the city together. "Today is a day to take care of the body," Daniel said. Marcus nodded. "And the mind?" The decision was simple. Movement first, then deep rest. The training area received them in silence, natural light entering from above, ample space, free breathing. They began slowly, long stretches, controlled. The muscles responded better today, looser, more available. Marcus concentrated on strength, precise movements, without excess. Daniel chose the rhythm, constant, fluid. The sound was minimal, weights being set down gently, synchronized breaths. The effort was not aggressive, it was conscious. Each repetition had a meaning. The body activated without tension. Heat appeared slowly, a light layer of sweat, a sensation of life. Afterward, the silence returned. They looked at each other, without words. The next step was inevitable: rest. The wellness space enveloped them from the first instant. Dim light, soft aromas, music almost imperceptible. Time changed again, slower, deeper. They were led to separate rooms, but close, private, silent. Daniel lay down. The surface was warm, welcoming. He closed his eyes. The first contact was soft, expert hands, slow movement. The massage began without haste, long glides, precise pressure. Every muscle responded, releasing little by little. The tension disappeared, as if it had never been there. Breathing became deeper, more regular. The body simply surrendered. In another room, Marcus experienced the same, eyes closed, mind in calm. The hands followed a constant rhythm, hypnotic. Time stopped mattering. Minutes, maybe more. Everything diluted. When it ended, neither of them got up immediately. They stayed there, in silence, feeling the echo of the massage, lightness, warmth, balance. Later, they met in a relaxation area. Soft light, comfortable seats, Daniel smiled upon seeing him. Same as me. Marcus exhaled slowly. Better than I expected. They sat together, in no hurry to talk. No need. The body was loose, the mind clear. A rare state, but perfect. From there, a window showed part of the city. The green of Montjuic stretched out in the distance. Quiet. Balanced. Daniel leaned his head back, closed his eyes. Marcus let his shoulders drop. We could stay here all day, he said. Daniel smiled slightly. We could. But there is still more. Not as an obligation, but as a possibility. The day remained open. But they were already complete. Luxury was not just what they had, it was how they lived it. Slowly, with attention, with calm. And in that perfect balance, time began to expand once more. The afternoon faded effortlessly. The sky turned from blue to amber, then to a soft violet, almost imperceptible. Inside the suite, the light was dim, relaxed, in balance with the approaching night. Daniel went out onto the terrace. The air was warm, light, with a faint trace of salt. Marcus leaned on the railing. He looked toward the city. The lights were beginning to turn on, one by one, like a living map. In the distance, the Sagrada Familia shone with a solemn calm. Closer, the streets of the Example drew golden lines. The night here is different, Marcus said. Daniel nodded. Softer, yet more intense. They prepared without haste. Fresh clothes, clean cuts, effortless elegance. The city was waiting for them. Upon leaving, the atmosphere was different. More energy, more movement, but still contained. They walked toward areas where the night felt more alive. Passeig de Gracia had a special glow. Reflections on the ground, moving shadows, people coming and going, soft laughter, conversations in many languages. Daniel observed everything calmly. Marcus breathed in the atmosphere. This has rhythm, he said. But it wasn't a chaotic rhythm. It was fluid, natural. They entered an elegant bar, a carefully designed space, low light, enveloping music, nothing aggressive, a constant pulse, soft. They sat near a window. From there the city kept moving. They ordered something light, fresh drinks, delicate aromas. The ice clinked gently. Daniel rested his glass on the table. He looked at Marcus. This is our moment. Marcus nodded, without interruptions. The music accompanied them. It did not dominate. It was just there. After a while, they decided to move on. The night was only beginning. They walked slowly, with no fixed destination, letting themselves be guided by intuition. The path led them near Elborn, narrower streets, a more intimate atmosphere. Warm lights hung between buildings. The sound was closer, more human. They entered another space, more lively, but still select. The music had more presence, a constant rhythm, deep. Marcus closed his eyes for an instant. He felt the pulse. Daniel observed him. Shall we dance? Marcus smiled, slowly. There was no rush. The movement was natural, effortless, without show, only connection. The music enveloped them. Time. Once again, diluted. Around them people moved, but they maintained their own rhythm, internal, quiet. After a while they stepped out again. The night air greeted them, fresher now. They walked side by side, without talking much. The Gothic quarter appeared silent at these hours. Long shadows, almost empty streets. A perfect contrast. Marcus breathed deeply. I like this balance. Daniel nodded. Energy and calm. They continued walking, until the city began to soften. Less noise, fewer people. The way back was slow, conscious. Upon reaching the building, the silence returned. The elevator rose smoothly, floor after floor. to the penthouse. Entering the suite, everything was in its place, orderly, serene. They went out to the terrace once more. The pool reflected the moon, the water motionless. Barcelona was still there, but distant. Marcus sat down. Daniel settled beside him. It was perfect, Marcus said. Daniel rested his head slightly. And there is still more left. But not as an expectation. Instead, as continuity. The air was soft. The night. Deep. And little by little, the rhythm of the city was left behind. Only silence remained. And the sensation of being exactly where they were meant to be. The day began more slowly. No alarm, no intention, only light. A soft clarity entered through the large windows, diffuse, as if time were in no hurry. Daniel opened his eyes. He did not move. He listened to the silence, a full silence, pleasant. Marcus was still sleeping, deep breathing, constant. The memory of the night before remained present, but already transformed, lighter. Daniel got up slowly. He walked toward the terrace. The air was different, cleaner, more open. The sky was clear, a continuous blue, without interruptions. Barcelona stretched out below, serene. In the distance, the sea shone with intensity, a lighter blue than other days, more alive. Marcus appeared behind him, his expression still relaxed. Today, the sea, he said in a low voice. Daniel smiled. Yes, the sea. The plan was simple. Move little, feel much. After a light breakfast, they went out. The city was already active, but they maintained their own rhythm, without rushing. The way toward the coast was peaceful. The streets opened up little by little. The air changed, more humid, saltier. Barceloneta received them with its soft energy. Nothing aggressive, nothing chaotic, just life. They walked along the sea, without shoes, the sand beneath their feet, lukewarm, granular. The sound of the waves was constant, a repeated pattern, hypnotic. Daniel closed his eyes for an instant. He breathed deeply. Marcus let the water touch his ankles, fresh, awake. This balances everything, he said. Daniel nodded. It puts everything in its place. They walked in silence. No need to talk. The horizon was clean, a clear line between sea and sky. Nothing more. They sat down afterward. Near the water, the sun warmed their skin, without excess. The wind provided balance. Perfect. Time became elastic. Minutes that seemed long, yet light. Marcus lay back, rested his hands in the sand, looked at the sky. I could stay like this. All day. Daniel did the same. Nothing else is needed. Luxury, in that moment, was simple. Space, silence, presence. After a while, they stood up. They walked toward a quieter area, fewer people, more space. The sound of the sea dominated everything. They stopped, for no specific reason, just because. Marcus looked toward the city. In the distance, the silhouette of Montjuic rose gently, green, stable. Daniel followed the line of buildings until it lost itself in the grid of the example. It's curious, he said. From here, everything seems simpler. Marcus nodded. It is. Distance changes perception. It reduces the noise. It leaves the essential. They remained a while longer, doing nothing, just being. When they decided to return, they did so slowly, without breaking the rhythm. The city received them again. But something had changed, or perhaps it was them. Lighter, more present. Back in the suite, the contrast was perfect. Height, silence, perspective. From the terrace, the sea looked different. Further away, wider. The pool reflected the afternoon sky. Marcus submerged himself slowly. The water enveloped him. Daniel watched him from the edge. Then he entered as well. The water was perfect, neither cold nor hot, just right. They floated for a moment, without talking, looking at the sky. The sun was beginning to go down, warmer colours, deeper. The day was closing. Without effort, they stepped out of the water. They sat together, skin still damp, the air soft. Today was enough, Marcus said. Daniel nodded. More than enough. There was no need to add more. The balance was already there, between the sea and the sky. And in that suspended space, everything seemed in its place. The afternoon drifted into night without resistance. Soft colours, long shadows, a light that faded slowly. In the suite, everything was in calm. There was no rush to go out. There were no defined plans, only a clear sensation to stay. Daniel reclined on the sofa, his body still light after the day at sea. Marcus sat nearby, with an open book, but without reading. The silence did not feel heavy. It was comfortable, natural. From the windows, Barcelona transformed itself once again. The lights began to turn on, one by one, without a sound. In the distance, the Sagrada Familia was illuminated with delicacy. Like a constant presence, the sky grew deeper, dark blue, almost black. Daniel closed his eyes. He wasn't sleeping, only resting. Marcus set the book aside. He looked at the city. Then he looked at him. Doing nothing is difficult, he said in a low voice. Daniel smiled without opening his eyes. Only at first. The body needs time to understand, to let go, to stop looking for stimuli. The air inside the suite was perfect. Exact temperature, soft aroma, an enveloping sensation. Marcus stood up. He walked toward the terrace. The night was already installed. The city sparkled, but from above, everything seemed slower. He leaned on the railing. He breathed deeply. Daniel appeared by his side shortly after. Without saying anything, they stayed there, observing. The grid of the example turned into lines of light, orderly, hypnotic. Beyond, the darkness of the sea, quiet, infinite. We could not go out today, Marcus said. Daniel nodded. We should not go out. The decision was immediate, without doubts. They returned inside. The lighting was dim, almost invisible. They prepared something light, simple flavors, without complications. They ate slowly, without distractions. Every gesture was deliberate. Afterward, they went back to the terrace. The pool reflected the moon, the water motionless, like a perfect mirror. Marcus sat on the edge. He dipped his feet in. Daniel did the same. The contrast of the cool water, the warm night, a simple balance. This, Marcus murmured, is enough. Daniel looked at him. It always was. Sometimes it is forgotten, but it is there, in the simple, in the still. The distant sound of the city was constant, but far away, like an echo. They lay back on the lounges, looking at the sky, the stars barely visible, but present. The air caressed their skin. Light, regular. Breathing became slower, more profound. Time stopped mattering. There was no before. There was no after. Only that moment, suspended. Daniel closed his eyes. Marcus did the same. Without talking, without thinking too much, just being. The city stayed alive, but they didn't need to follow it. They had found another rhythm, slower, more real. And in that shared silence, rest arrived without effort, like a soft wave. That does not push, only envelopes, luxury. Now was doing nothing, and doing it together. The day began with a different kind of stillness, deeper, more conscious, as if something were closing, without sadness, only with presence. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. The light was soft, dimmer than other days. Marcus was already awake, sitting by the window, observing. "Last day," he said in a low voice. Daniel nodded from the bed. There was no rush to get up. Time seemed to expand even further. Every gesture, slower, more deliberate. He approached him. They looked at the city together. In the distance, the Sagrada Familia stood out against the clear sky. Firm, immutable. "It's curious," Daniel said. Everything stays the same, but it feels different." Marcus smiled slightly. "Because we aren't the same people who arrived." The silence returned, comfortable. They moved through the suite calmly, as if they wanted to remember every detail: the texture of the fabrics, the light on the walls, the slight sound of the air. They ate breakfast without speaking much, looking at the city, letting each moment settle. The egg sample stretched out below, orderly as always, but now familiar. Afterward, they went out, not to discover, but to say goodbye. They walked without a destination, returning to familiar places. Paseg de Gracia received them with its usual elegance. The facades sparkled under the sun. Casa Batlló reflected the light just like the first day. Marcus observed it calmly. "It doesn't seem strange anymore," he said. Daniel nodded. "Now it's part of the memory." They continued toward the Gothic quarter, the narrow streets, the filtered light, everything the same, but closer. They passed by the Barcelona cathedral. They stopped for a moment without talking, only observing, as if they wanted to save that image for later, for when they were no longer there. Time moved forward, but without urgency. Later, the path led them back toward the sea. Barceloneta was quiet. Fewer people, more space. They walked near the water, just like the day before, but this time, with another sensation, more conscious. Marcus let the water touch his feet. Daniel looked at the horizon. "There's always something that stays behind," he said. Marcus nodded. "And something you take with you." They sat down. The sound of the sea was the same, constant, immutable. But the moment was unique, unrepeatable. The sun began to set, slowly, warm colours, long shadows. It was time to go back. The last evening in the suite awaited them. The return was silent, peaceful, without the need to fill the space. Upon entering the penthouse, everything was the same, perfect, serene, but now with a history. They went out onto the terrace. The sunset light enveloped everything. The pool reflected golden tones, the city brilliances. In the distance, the profile of Montjuic was softly drawn. They sat together, without speaking. The moment needed no words. The sky changed colour. Orange, pink, then deep blue. The city lights turned on. Once more. But this time, it was the last. Marcus breathed in the night air, letting the cool breeze settle the day's heat. He turned to Daniel, his silhouette framed by the glowing skyline. "We found what we were looking for," Marcus whispered. Daniel leaned his head on Marcus's shoulder, eyes fixed on the distant sea. "We found the silence," Daniel replied. The city below continued its frantic pulse, but up here, held between the stars and the stone, they remained anchored in their own shared peace. Everything was in balance. Everything was complete. The last morning was not an ending. It was the beginning. The suitcases were ready, discreet, waiting by the door. Daniel looked at the suite one last time. The light was already different. The sun was higher. The shadows of the furniture were shorter. Marcus was on the terrace. He was looking at the sea. His posture was relaxed. The tension that had arrived with them days ago had completely evaporated. "We're going," Marcus said as he felt him approach. Daniel nodded. "But we're taking the calm with us." They went down in the same silent elevator. The lobby was still marble and soft light. The city received them with its usual roar. But now it didn't feel like noise. It felt like a pulse. In the taxi toward the airport, they both looked out the window. Barcelona was receding. The towers of the Sagrada Familia, the grid of the Ike sample, the blue line of the Mediterranean. Daniel felt Marcus's hand on his, a silent promise. They had arrived seeking an escape. They left having found a center. The plane took off. Below, the city became a miniature, a mosaic of stones and dreams. From above, everything looked in balance. Daniel leaned his head back. He closed his eyes. The image of the penthouse remained in his mind, a space between the earth and the clouds, where time had finally agreed to wait for them. And as the horizon expanded, the calm remained.